Hey, what's up, everybody? Coming back to you with another recorded lecture. Hopefully, we are back on Friday, but let's be honest, a lot of you guys, this is gonna, this is probably gonna go unwatched until right before exam number one. So, but for those of you guys who are keeping track, this is Wednesday's lecture. We're still online, and we'll see if we're back on Friday or whatever. Either way, we're staying right on track. We're keeping track with the schedule. So that being said, if you check out the schedule, there's a couple of things that will hopefully be helpful if I get this thing to work. Quiz number one, we still are ways out from that thing being open, but somewhere around February 9th, it'll be open. It'll be open for a full week. Just reminding you, Wiley number one still open. Go work on it. We're into chapter three now, so uh, somewhere around half of the content almost for exam number one and Wiley number one. So it'd be a good time to, if you haven't already worked on that Wiley, go jump in and take some of those questions, knock them out. Review sessions this week. Obviously, this week we just haven't been there. That being said, feel free to reach out to your TAs, GAs. If you've got questions, if you're studying on your own, if you just want to chat with them, there's a course Zoom link that they can use, you can use, whatever it is. Anyway, we will jump right back into where we left off. As mentioned, we're on tissues. We've made it through epithelial tissue. Maybe we need to kind of back up and talk about that. Epithelial tissue, the covering and lining, the secreting tissues. There were four types: simple squamous, stratified squamous, simple cuboidal, simple columnar. Be able to describe each word, know where you're going to find them, know a major function, right, for each. We're now into connective tissue. Right. So if my Roman numeral two, but I'm just going to put number two up here, right? All of this that we're seeing here is connective tissue. There's like a lag on my pen. I don't know if it's the case for you guys, but it's real funky. We talked early on. You don't necessarily have to know if this is embryonic or anything like that, but you need to know what the mesenchyme is. I'll remind you. I'll go back over this table here. Just showing you where we left off here. We've done the whole connective tissue proper group, and that's no small thing. Six different types of connective tissues that we've covered there. We left off here on cartilage, and we're going to go right back here into cartilage and pick up where we left off. Just as a friendly reminder, though, this table is huge. Hopefully, you've gone back and watched that lecture, and maybe if you've actually watched it and you've done some studying, you're starting to get this. All connective tissue starts here. It comes from the mesenchyme. When these stem cells, right, develop from that mesoderm, that middle germ layer, tissue layer, if those cells become fibroblasts, remember that a blast is an immature building cell. A fibroblast is an immature fiber building cell, and it will mature into a fibrocyte, a mature fiber cell that makes, guess what, these fibers here. How do we get fibers? They start as fibrocytes, and then they mature in start as fibroblasts, they mature into these fibrocytes. There's three types of fibers: collagen, elastic, reticular fibers. And then when we start combining those, if we arrange the fibers in a real loose pattern and then put fluid in between them, we can make things like areolar connective tissue, holds water, liquid, right under your skin. We talked about that. Adipose tissue like fat, or reticular fiber that makes our lymph nodes and things like that. Or if we take those fibers, particularly the collagen ones, right, and we combine them, we compact them into a really, really dense state, then if they're all running in the same direction, they're dense regular. If they're running in multiple directions, they're dense irregular. And if they're made of elastic tissues, elastic fibers, they can stretch like uh, I don't know, your blood vessels, right, or your lungs or things like that. Then they're elastic. That was connective tissue proper. We, as mentioned, are going into cartilage. Now, as a friendly reminder of why this thing's so good, is not only is this table going to organize all of your cartilage for you and be like, hey, here are your three different types of cartilage, and you can build on those, but it's a brief reminder, too, that when mesenchyme forms a chondroblast, chondro prefix means cartilage. Blast is immature building cell. This is how we get cartilage. Chondroblast mature into chondrocytes, and chondro means cartilage. That's what forms cartilage. Just one type of cartilage? No, check out below it. It's hyaline, fibro, and elastic cartilage. So let's go talk about those. And then just as you can see here, we're going to talk about bone tissue, osteoblast, osteocytes, mature into osseous tissue. And then we'll talk about our three different types of blood cells as well. All right. So we've done sort of the first connective tissue proper. Now we're going to these supporting connective tissue groups. We're going to talk about cartilage and bone here. Let's start with cartilage. And with cartilage, maybe you know this, maybe you don't know this. It's matrix. It's gel-like. It's mostly made up of water. If you were to take, now this is fresh cartilage right out of a human body, open up, say, the knee, right? The knee has that big, thick pad of fibrocartilage called your meniscus. That meniscus, if you were to take it out of an individual or just stick your finger there and feel it, it's real squishy. It's very, very gel-like. Lots and lots of water making up that cartilage. Now check this out. Second point, it's avascular. Some of you are like, no way. And some of you are like, what do you mean? I don't even know what you're talking about. If you'll remember, we talked about how epithelial tissue was avascular. A is not. Vascular means blood flow. Cartilage does not have direct blood flow to it. Now, much like epithelial tissue, it's still alive. It still can get nutrients, right? As we're seeing right here on this next point, nutrients still come up from blood vessels below the cartilage, below those deeper layers or whatever. And then in the deeper layers, those things get pushed up into this perichondrium, the tissue layer that goes around the cartilage. But the cartilage itself isn't. So check this out. The role, as we can see down here at the bottom, the role of cartilage is to withstand compression, tension, stretching, pushing. It's if you have a bone and you've got another bone close to it, you are always, always, always going to have cartilage. Now, we think of like the meniscus, right? We've got a big heavy bone like the femur and then a big heavy bone like the tibia, and we're jumping off of something and we're compressing those two. And you're exactly right. We've got it there. We've got it all along our vertebral column. Huge vertebrae, really getting compressed really hard. But check this out. Even in your antebrachial region, right? Your lower arm, even in your carpals. Think about when you fall down and you put your hands out. We shouldn't, but we do. We put our hands out and we try to catch ourselves when we, say, slip and fall on the ice, for example. We don't want bone hitting bone. We never want bone touching bone. So we put cartilage between every single bone pairing, every joint, every place where there's bone and bone, we've got cartilage there. But that cartilage is avascular, which means that if or when it gets damaged, it has a hell of a time healing from it. Really, really tough time healing. You do not want to damage your cartilage. Runners, I am looking, not really, but I'm really talking at you and to you right now. Running is so hard on your cartilage, specifically in that tibial region. You really should be trying to diversify your activity and running less and being kind of running on something other than concrete. Really hard on your cartilage. And when you damage your cartilage, you really don't come back from that. You can stitch it back together. You can try to put stem cells in there and try to, heal some of that. It does not heal well. Typically, they cut away the damaged part, they stitch it back together, and then they send you to PT, and hopefully your PT is telling you you need to get off your knees, get off concrete surfaces, whatever it is. Anyway, don't damage your cartilage. We need it. We need it immensely. And there's not just one type of cartilage, as we talked about before. I probably should have this playing earlier or whatever. Sure, I use the example of you just jump off and you land on something, but we are doing some pretty wild things. This was some of you last weekend at Rocky Knob, I'm sure. Anyway, you get the idea. Cartilage, lots of compression, heavy, heavy, heavy compression. Okay, so I think I'm still on blue here, which is great. We'll just start with hyaline or hyaline, whatever you prefer there. And what you'll notice here is we've got the skeleton, and some of you may not have noticed yet, but the skeleton is color coordinated. There's not many colors on here. There are three specifically. You're probably just seeing the blue. And everything that you are seeing in blue, especially across that thoracic, abdominothoracic area. But check it out in what you would call your elbow, your cubital or antecubital region, what you would call your hip area, or this acetabulum or this coxal area. You're seeing a lot of this blue. That blue is hyaline. Hyaline cartilage. It translates to glass or glassy. And if you were to see it, it's not super heavy and thick, like we're going to see our fibro here in a second. It's smoother, it's more clear, a lot more water in there, so it's a lot more squishy. It's really good at being compressed and coming back. Smaller bones, lighter bones, where there's lots of bones. Check out all those carpals, right? And tarsals, lots and lots of hyaline cartilage. And that's what we want. Our hands aren't getting massive, massive compression like our knees and our back or vertebral column are, right? We have different cartilage in those areas. A really rare one in this particular case, good old elastic cartilage, and it shows up in green on here, so I'm trying to keep with that. Notice your external ear, right? Right now, reach and feel your ear and fold it around. That's cartilage. That's elastic cartilage, right? It's really moldable, foldable, all that good kind of stuff. It's not the only place. Your epiglottis. We'll talk about it when we get to your digestive / respiratory systems, but another good example. Not many places where we're going to find elastic cartilage, right? Instead, our third type of cartilage we're going to see a lot of is in red for you. Now, I'm going to do this in red just to show you and highlight down here. Your fibrocartilage is red, but then I'm going to try to help guide your attention here. Easiest place probably to see it here is right here between your two pubic bones. We don't think about that as a heavy, heavy compression area, but it absolutely is. If you could watch a skeleton with everything removed, moving around, doing activities like running or jumping off of things, you would see these two pubic bones, lots of heavy compression. You'll see it all throughout the vertebral column, but mostly in that lumbar, lower, the area I've highlighted for you here. When you jump off of things, this gets compressed. Big time compression here. And then, hard to see it until I highlight it here, your meniscus or menisci. You have one on each side here. Those are fibro. These are made almost exclusively of collagen fibers, heavy fibers, lots of heavy compression here. So three types, make sure you know them. Know at least one example, right, where you might find these. Hyaline, you could just put at the ends of your bones, right, on most bones. It's elastic and fibro. You can get a little more detailed for. Okay, we're moving along to this other group of supporting connective tissue. We talked about cartilage already, and hopefully you can see how it supports. It supports this other group, and bone. And bone is another type of connective tissue. We don't think of bone as a tissue, but it is a living tissue. It's made of two primary components. I don't know why. Right before I started talking, just kind of got this thing going here. I'll recover. We'll get through it. Most of your bones are made up of hardened calcified salts, calcium salts that have been really hardened and compressed really hard. In addition to that, we're going to see collagen fibers that then wrap around those collagen fibers calcified salts and things like that. Now, you'll see it better when we get to bones. Just sort of believe me for right now, right? This is a really fun point where I just asked students to be like, okay, your bones, vascularized or avascularized? We saw epithelial tissue was avascularized, cartilage avascularized. What about your bones? And sometimes we'll talk about this in class, but if we were in class, I'd hear both answers. Half the group would be like vascular, and some people would be avascular. And we'd be like, well, let's think about it. Anytime you guys are broken a bone, right? You break a bone. Do you expect to see blood with a broken bone, specifically from the bone itself? And most people, when they think about this, they intuitively, I don't think so. If you broke your femur, you're not going to pour blood out of your femur. Sure, you're going to bleed out of your. Here's the thing: not only is bone vascularized, it is vascularization. It is the source. You can see it here. If you look in the picture, you have not only have blood vessels running inside of your bones, you've got blood vessels on the outside, on the inside. And check this out. Your bones are where your blood cells come from. One more time. Your bones are actually where all of your blood cells, your red blood cells, your white blood cells, your platelets, your blood starts there's not blood in it. I get that. I thought that too, right? Early on. But as we're going to learn about them, we're going to find out not only they have blood within them, through them, around them, this is where your blood comes from. Real quick recap here, or just a little review for you. Uh, Bone cells start as what? The immature version would be osteoblast, and osteoblasts are then going to mature into osteocytes. And as we saw in the previous table that sort of summarized all this stuff, there's not just one type of bone. There's actually compact bone and spongy bone. And maybe you're not seeing it yet, but check out right here. In the ends of your bones, what we'll see a little bit later is your epiphyseal regions or your epiphysis regions. If you cut a bone, long bones specifically, and you open them up, you'll see the inside of the bone is actually kind of hollowed out like a sponge, hence spongy bone. Compact bone is, yes, the outside, the part you're thinking of, the part that we sort of see when we're doing lab and things like that. But the inside of your bones are also spongy. So two types of bone. Make sure you know those two types of bone. Okay, so just this is really everything that we just talked about already. So I'm not just going to read it back to you, but every single one of your tissues, I think I gave you one of these slides. So I'm going to give you another one of these. If you didn't believe me before, here's a bone cell, an osteocyte, a fully hardened, mature osteocytes. And what we're going to see is in 2 chapters from now, we're going to go into bones and we're going to build out this, what's known as the fundamental unit of bone, an osteon. That's the singular structure of bone. And it's actually made up of, it's trying to show you in this picture, a bunch of osteocytes linked, forming rings. Our bones are a lot like trees. We'll see sort of tree trunk type structure and makeup. We're going to build these out in about 2 chapters. But for now, all you really need to know is bone is a type of connective tissue, a hardened, calcified, supported by these collagen fibers we've seen over and over again. They're osteoblasts that mature into osteocytes, and they can make 2 different types, spongy and compact bone. Okay, moving along here, we're going to go into this sort of liquid type of connective tissue. And again, I know we don't think of this as tissue, but blood is a tissue. It's a liquid tissue. It's a type of connective tissue. Lymph, it depends. I'm going to cross it out and we're going to leave it out here. You've got enough connective tissues to deal with. Some people throw lymph in as one of your connective tissues, and a lot of people sort of leave it out altogether. Well, let's just leave it out. We've got enough going on for us already, and we're just going to finish up our connective tissues by talking about blood here. So here we go with blood. Let's talk about it just like we've done with all the others. Just like we said, collagen is mostly gel-like and water with some other parts. Blood is quite similar. Blood is mostly water. There's actually two major components, right? 2 parts to blood. There's blood plasma, which is the fluid. It's, again, mostly water. It's the liquid part of blood. And then the other major component are the cells that live in that fluid, right? So what is blood? Blood is liquid, blood plasma. And then number 2, blood is cells, right? And there's going to be multiple parts to each one of these, but I'm just trying to help you get your head around it right now. Your 2 major components are blood plasma and cells. But we're going to do this. We're going to do all 3 types of cells. Here they are for you. Number 1, first type of cell, red blood cells. And it's not enough to say red blood cells, or RBCs, they're oftentimes abbreviated as, right? But you need to know the actual proper term is erythro. That prefix erythro, right, just means red in Latin. So erythro is red, and check it out, cytes. So it's red cytes, red mature cells, right? Red blood cells are just mature red cells that, are transported throughout your body. Leuco is our prefix that means white. Leukocytes are just white blood cells. And as you can see here, there's 5 types. We're not going there yet, right? Again, you have more than enough to keep organized. We'll get into your different types of white blood cells in Unit 3 when we get to the cardiovascular system. So for now, erythro means red. That's 1. Leuco means white. That's number 2. And thrombo, it's a really funny word. It means plate or fragment. So your platelets, right? Your platelets are also known as thrombocytes. So what is blood? It's a connective tissue. It's a liquid connective tissue. Still at the most basic, just like all of your other connective tissues, just like connective tissue proper is just fibroblast maturing in fibrocytes. That's the cell. Just like your cartilage was chondroblasts that mature into chondrocytes. That's what makes up the tissue. Just like bone is osteoblasts that mature into osteocytes. That's the cell type. Here we are back to blood, another type of connective tissue. It's erythro, leuko, and thrombocytes. Those are your three different types of cells that make up this group. Now, we know that this type of connective tissue is liquid. It's a fluid matrix that it lives in, and its primary job is to transport. It transports not just these things. Sure, it transports oxygen and CO2. Awesome. It transports that glucose we've talked about already. It transports lactic acid or metabolic waste or things like that. It transports hormones. It transports, you'll see, medications and lots of different things. You just need to know for right now, blood is one of your connective tissues, really important one. What are the major cell types? Erythro, leuko, thrombocytes, really diverse, really cool liquid environment, but still connective tissue that this belongs to. All right. So if I was one of those professors and we were in class, I would do something like this. I'd be like, all right, now look, hopefully you believe me. Connective tissues. Guys, we've been here for a while. We've been covering them 2 solid lectures pretty much just on connective tissues. It's a huge group. You have to know this group. Get together, organize these things, see if you can come up with a nice little flow diagram or table. I showed you the table that I sort of found somewhere or whatever. See, I'd put you in groups and be like, I would never do this. I'm never going to do this. In fact, I'll always tell you, like, I'm going to do it for you. But you should do this. You absolutely should do this. Take the one that I'm about to give you on the next slide, but take the time and try to organize all your connective tissues. Not with text. Don't rewrite your notes. Organize it and just put a couple of things. And hopefully you come up with something that looks like this. Now, some of you are taking a screenshot already and you've got your camera out. Don't do it. I've already given you this. I've gave you this slide. I really like our last semester TA, a couple of semesters ago. She made an even more complex one for all of your tissues, epithelial, connectives, and muscular and nervous as well. That one's on the As You Learn site for you. Just check under Unit 1 review materials. But seriously, at some point, try to do this yourself. Even though I've done it for you, even though a TA did it for you, just try, right? It makes a world of difference. Now, some of you are looking at this. Maybe you're coming back later and you're watching this and you see an issue. Maybe you see a couple of different things. Maybe you could see, be like, I could make this better, right? You didn't talk about our 2 different types of bone. Yeah, for sure. Add your 2 different types of bone, right? And add those in there. Oh, obviously there were 3 different types of blood cells. Put in 1, 2, 3, right? Put in your 3 different types of blood cells. Some of you are like, oh, I was thinking of for every single one of these, what's the 2 different cell types, right? CT proper, this should be fibroblast to fibrocytes. Then you go into a quick description. And absolutely, that's great too. Chondroblasts, chondrocytes, osteoblasts, osteocytes, right? Then absolutely build this out, make it even better. But there is an error on here. And maybe some of you guys are really quick to this, have already figured it out. Remember how there's 3 types of loose connective tissue proper? There's also supposed to be 3 types of dense. Go figure it out, figure out which one's missing. Some of you probably already know, and add it on there. There should be a 3rd one on here, right? But you get the idea. Not only do this, make it yourself, build it out, add your cell types in there. And by the way, this is what you're wanting to bring. These are your notes. Don't bring all of your notes, every single word you ever wrote in like, I don't know, 1.2 font, print it out and whatever. That's a terrible. Just study your connective tissues well enough to where this table by itself, with the things added in, totally makes sense. You don't need a lot more fonts. Study as if you have no notes and then just bring something like this in. And then while you make it, start adding some questions in, right? Which one of these types of CT proper provide a basement membrane? They hold fluid, they hold water below the skin surface, specifically interstitial fluid. It's also the site of inflammation. That would be areolar connective tissue, right? Areolar connective tissue. Do the same thing with all of these, right? Make another question. Here's another one. Which type of cartilage absorbs shock and impact between your vertebral discs, at your meniscus, between your pubic bones? We're talking about fibrous connective tissue, the red one. If you go back and look at the picture of the skeleton, you're starting to get the idea though here. This is just, think of if I just started rattling them off. Which type of blood cell is this? Which type of immature building cell gives rise to this type of tissue? Right? I could come up with 15 different questions right now just off of this table. Then I start throwing in epithelial tissue. Then we haven't done muscle yet. We got to add muscle questions. We got to add nervous questions. Then I could go back to, and then how do the cells of this tissue get things like oxygen in and out of their cells rapidly without the use of ATP, right? That's chapter 2 content. We could go back to chapter 1 and talk about serous membrane. We're starting to get there, guys. We're starting to get there, everyone. If you've not started studying, this stuff is just going to compound and compound and compound. There's a lot of content in this course. Don't put it off until a couple of nights before. As mentioned in class, if your book ever does a good job of like summing up all these things, I'll grab it. I give you the table that I had before that I really like or whatever. But here you go. Here's another nice table. If you just want to print this thing off, shrink it down, put it in your notes. It's everything we kind of just talked about as well. There's the one. Just make sure you, at the very least, you don't have to like remake this table or anything like, but understand it. Please, for the love of God, understand this table before you come into chapter 1 or unit 1 exam is a big part of exam 1 and your final exam, by the way, as well. You're going to see it and physiology and, the rest of your career. Okay. Woo. There he is. That was a nice transition. Guys, I like Ron Gosling. We're going into muscle, and this is the muscle we're all thinking of when we think about muscle. But it's not the only form. Some of you are like, it's the only form I care about. But I get it. This is the form that we're seeing here, skeletal muscle. There it is one more time for you. Skeletal muscle, that's what you're thinking of, right? When you see that this is the type of muscle that attaches itself to our skeleton. It moves us around, right? We're going to talk about a couple of other things that are in here as well. Then there's also smooth muscle and there's cardiac muscle. So there's your three different types. There's your three different types. And in fact, you know what? We're going to go through all three of these together. But right now on this screen, you have everything you need. I'm going to give you muscles and say, hey, which type of muscle is striated and voluntary and does this? And right now you're like, oh, what the hell are you talking about? But check it out. This already does it for us. Here's how I want you to differentiate. Yeah, give me a quick description. Skeletal muscles attached to your bones. That's what they're named for. But there's going to be two other components, two major components here you need to know, and they'll help you differentiate all three types of your muscles. Are they striated, right? And skeletal muscle is striated. I'll show you what that means here in a second. And then number two, the other part is it voluntary or involuntary? So number one is what type are there striations present? And again, I'll show you here in just a second. And number two is it voluntary or involuntary? Change color here if I can, just to, mix things up. Here's smooth muscle. Smooth muscle, hollow organs, right? Think about your stomach, your blood vessels, your pancreas, right? If you need something to squeeze down and move something through it or release a fluid or a hormone, that's a smooth muscle. It compresses your hollow organs for the most part, or your glands. Check it out. It's involuntary. Involuntary. You should know that. You don't tell your blood vessels or your stomach, hey, stomach, contract and, move things around. We don't have to do that. It lacks striations. No striations present on smooth muscle. And then we go into type number 3, cardiac muscle. And here are your two different things. As the name implies, where do we find it? On the heart. That's it. That's the only place we're really going to find it. You should also know it is obviously involuntary. You don't have control and you don't go, okay, contract, relax, contract. Thank God we don't have to do that. Instead, it does that via the autonomic nervous system. We'll talk about it a little bit later. And on top of that, it also has striations. So there you go. What's the difference between your three muscle types? Oh, I could tell you the question I'm asking. I'm going to say, hey, which type of muscle tissue has striations but is involuntary? And then I'll give you something else, but we're done. You should know that. It has striations. Okay, that's either skeletal or cardiac, and it's involuntary. Oh, that's cardiac. We're done. That's how we differentiate all three types of your muscle. I think the voluntary, involuntary, we're all good on. Let's go talk about those striations and I'll just recap these. Let's start with skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle, as mentioned, it is voluntary, very, very long muscle fibers, right? Here's one. We're going to call them muscle fibers, but they're actual cells. A muscle fiber is a muscle cell. And so the cells are made into these really long cylindrical fibers. Striations are present. What are they? They're these things. Look really, really close. These dark bands that you see here, just stacked one after another, after another, after another. You get the idea. I don't need to make the. Those are the striations. And you may be like, so what? Big whoop. And I get it. I totally understand that. That's how I would feel as well, and it totally makes sense. Hang on to this. Unit 2, the very first chapter is muscles. We are going to go all the way down to this level. I'm going to show you what the striations are, and the striations have to do with how the muscle works. If those striations interact and get shorter, that's a muscle contraction. Just believe me for right now. When we get to the first chapter in Unit 2, that's what we're going to go back to. We're going to build it all the way back up. As the name implies, these muscles are attached to your skeleton. They move the skeleton when they shorten. Their job is, voluntarily move your skeleton, make facial expressions, right? Get up, move around, do those things. That's skeletal. Oh, yeah. Just there it is. Those skeletal. And all the things that you're doing in response to that. You're looking away or you're averting your eyes. You're laughing, you're smiling, you're rolling your eyes. However you react to this, and my reaction to Ryan Gosling, that's you using your skeletal muscle. So good job. Cardiac, as we talked about before, it is exclusively found on the walls of the heart. It is involuntary. We don't tell our heart when to contract or not, right? Its job is to involuntarily propel blood throughout it. It has those striations as well. Probably harder to see because they're really small in here, but if you were to zoom in really, really close and look and see, there's those really, really dark lines. They're still there. Those are the striations. But what's different, right? What's different, in addition to it being involuntary, in addition to it only being found at the heart, there's another difference. There's these really big, heavy black lines you can see. Those are known as intercalated discs. Intercalated disc. They have a very specific function in terms of how the heart contracts. Even though it has striations and skeletal has striations, right? They're going to contract in a similar way, but we need cardiac to contract slightly differently. So it has just one other function. I'm telling you that because I could give you that question on the quiz or the exam and say, okay, which type of muscle tissue is involuntary? It has striations. Again, we're done. You know that's cardiac, but I could also add in there. It also has the presence of intercalated discs and gap junctions. Ooh, the gap junctions. Remember back to when we started this chapter with tissues, we said, hey, there's only two types. Cells form together either tight junctions or gap junctions. And we talked about gap junctions were big gaps or holes or passageways. And we said they're exclusively really going to be found on cardiac muscle tissue. Anyway, you get the idea here. Cardiac is pretty unique. It's cardiac muscle tissue, specifically striations, involuntary, only found on the walls of the heart, also has gap junctions and intercalated discs. Really, really cool muscle tissue. We'll talk more about it when we get to the heart. Smooth muscle is our third type of tissue here. And as the name implies, if you look at this muscle, really close, especially under a microscope, there's no striations. And if there's no striations, there's no dark bands. And if there's no dark bands, when you look at it under a microscope, it's glassy. You can see through it. It's really smooth. It looks glassy and smooth, hence we call it smooth muscle. There's no striations present. We just talked about that. You can see that on the picture next to you. It's exclusively, or, almost exclusively, I'll say for the most part, found on the walls of hollow organs. like your blood vessels, your pancreas, your stomach, your pituitary gland that's going to secrete hormones. You get the idea. We could go through tons and tons and tons of these involuntary autonomic nervous system glands, tissues, whatever it is. If you need a hollowed out thing to squeeze and propel something or release something, we're going to use smooth muscle, right? It propels things, it squeezes things down, hollow organs. That's where we're going to find smooth muscle. So there's propulsion, an example, your esophagus, the whole thing, smooth muscle. I mean, there's other tissues there too, but it's mostly smooth muscle. How do we get things down our esophagus? Propulsion. It's just one contraction after another of a hollow organ, and it will propel things. That's also how we propel it all the way through the stomach, through the small, through the large intestine, and out the anus as well. So there you go, smooth muscle found throughout. And then finally, our last tissue, and we are done. We did epithelial, and there were four types. We did connective, and there were like, I don't know, a buttload of types. Then we did muscle, and there were three types: cardiac, smooth, skeletal. Now we're to nervous, and you know what the good news is? There's no types. There's no type. We're not going to break nervous down. There's a reason why I'm covering it, and we're done here. If you're doing the Roman numeral thing, because I started that way, and you're doing the whole thing, this would be this Roman numeral for the Roman numeral challenged. It's our fourth connective tissue, or sorry, our fourth major tissue group: epithelial, connective, muscle, nervous. This is our fourth major tissue group. The main cell type is made up of neurons. The main type. It is definitely not the only type. We're going to talk about supporting cells, as we can see down here. There'll be all these different types of supporting cells called neuroglial cells we'll talk about later. What do these cells do? What's the purpose and what's the function of this tissue group? Well, check it out. I do it in this way, right? Number one, it receives stimuli. We are constantly bombarded by stimuli, right? Here's an example. If you've ever watched this on YouTube, you get the whole idea. We receive stimuli. Who receives it? Your nervous tissue does. Your nervous tissue then will process that stimuli, right? It's going to interpret it. So number one, it receives stimuli, it interprets it. Oh, this is what's happening right now, right? Then number three, it spits out a reaction. That's what the nervous system does. It's constantly receiving input. It's constantly trying to make sense of it, and then it's putting back out an appropriate response. Now, this could be you stubbing your toe. It doesn't have to be you eating something spicy, right? It could be you hearing the sound of your roommate's voice. It could be you seeing a car coming towards you. It doesn't matter. You're receiving stimuli. Your brain, spinal cord, nervous tissue says, hey, here's what that message is. And then it spits out, here's what you should do in response to it. That is your nervous tissue. We do it over and over again. Okay. Hey, good job. We are done with tissues, guys, all together. We've made it through intro, we've made it through cells, and we have now made it through tissues. Awesome job. When we come back on Friday, hopefully in person, we will do a really big recap on all of our tissues. I'll give you a bunch of poll everywhere questions, but please, please, please take the time to review these and study it beforehand. And we'll do it all together. And we are going into our first organ system, integumentary system, starting on Friday. I'll see all of you guys back. After that, have a great, I don't know, time off from whatever. I'll shut up. Just go back to what you were doing. See ya.